Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the main battle of the previous 24 hours. We're going to talk about the parliament elections on the territory of Hungary. And yesterday in the evening, the Prime Minister of Hungary, the former Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, stated the election results, although not yet complete, is understandable and clear. The responsibility and opportunity of governance were not given to us. I congratulated the winning party. According to information we have, Orban's party lost the parliament elections on the territory of Hungary, and here we can see the approximate results. According to information we have, the TISA party has 138 seats and the Orban party has just 54 seats. For a constitutional majority in parliament, 133 seats are needed. So this is a very important victory, and I would like to remind you and point to attention that the TISA party was supported both by the European Union and Ukraine. As for the Orban party, his party was supported by the United States of America and Russia, which means that the Russians and the Americans lost the battle for Hungary and the Europeans and the Ukrainians won the battle. According to information we have, right after the situation, right after elections ended, the new Prime Minister of Hungary made lots of very interesting statements. We will renew and put on a strong foundation and, if possible, expand the cooperation with the Visegrad 4. In this spirit, my first trip will be to Poland to strengthen the 1,000-year-old Polish-Hungarian friendship. My second trip will be led to Vienna and the third to Brussels, so that we can bring home the European Union funds that the Hungarian people are entitled to. Another important statement, Magyar, who won the Hungarian elections, said he will negotiate with Putin on energy supplies. This is a very important statement. We will have to sit down with the Russian president. The geographical position of neither Russia nor Hungary will change. Our energy dependence on Russia will also remain. We will negotiate. Earlier, Orban demanded that Ukraine allow Russian oil to flow through the Druzhba pipeline, blocking the European loan and sanctions against Russia until then. But now we see that most likely in coming days everything will be resolved, and we believe that in coming 2, 3 or 4 weeks the Ukrainians will allow the Russians to supply Hungary via Druzhba pipeline that goes through the western parts of Ukraine, and which means that most likely the European Union will unblock the loan to Ukraine in amounts of 90 billion euros, which means that the conflict on the territory of Ukraine could last for 2 more years. Zelensky made a statement on this matter. He said that I congratulate Peter Magyar and the TISA party on their convincing victory. It's important when a constructive approach wins. Ukraine has always strived for good neighborly relations with everyone in Europe, and we are ready to develop cooperation with Hungary. The Russians, as of the morning of the 30th of April of 2026, haven't made any statement on this matter. The only thing we have is that Russia would be ready to supply gas to Western countries if there are volumes left from alternative markets. So most likely by saying gas, the Russians also meant the oil as well, so which means that the Russians are ready to sell oil to Hungary and probably to Slovakia via Druzhba pipeline if it happens, if everybody will probably agree on this situation. Now let's return back to Ukraine. I would like to remind you that yesterday there was an Easter ceasefire that ended during the night between the 12th and the 30th of April of 2026, and when the Easter ceasefire ended, both the Russians and the Ukrainians began bombing and attacking each other. And today we received different interesting numbers. Pro-Ukrainian sources stated that right after the end of the Easter ceasefire, the Russians attacked the territory of Ukraine using 98 drones as of the morning of 13th of April of 2026 as of the 8 a.m. So which means that just during the night the Russians used around 100 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. The Russians are saying that the Ukrainians during the night used 33 drones to attack the territory of the Russian Federation, so as you can see almost 3 times less. And this morning we received lots of videos and first videos. For example, according to information we have, the Russians attacked the city of Dnipro, but it seems that when talking about these explosions and these attacks, these attacks took place after the Minister of Defense of Ukraine published the article regarding the work of the Ukraine's air defense systems, which means that the Russians didn't stop attacking Ukrainians at 8 a.m. They continued doing this, and they currently are sending more and more waves of drones to attack objects of energy infrastructure and logistics through the entire territory of Ukraine. In this video we can see explosions and fire that took place on the territory or around the city of Dnipro. Furthermore, this morning pro-Ukrainian sources published the video from the area of the city of Zaporizhzhia. As a result of attack, the building in the central part of the settlement was almost completely destroyed. So the Russians are intensifying their attacks, preparing themselves before the beginning of a major late spring offensive operation. During the previous night, lots of drones were recorded, and different channels, different monitoring channels of Ukraine were trying to calculate and to see the places and positions of drones that were attacking Ukraine overnight. We're not talking about the biggest attack, but probably the Ukrainians didn't expect that after the end of the Easter ceasefire or Easter truce, the Russians will use around 100 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. Once again, the Ukrainians from their side used just 33 drones to attack Russia, so 3 times less. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Sumy direction, where the Russians are keeping advancing. Now it's becoming clear that the Sumy direction is one of the most important and primary directions for Russians, because here we can see the fastest and the biggest progress on the ground in comparison with any other's front line. During the previous 12 hours, according to information we have, the Russians improved their positions along the second defense layer between the settlements of Khotin and Marina. The Russians improved their positions along N07 road and in this big forest, and the Russians, as we can see, are keeping advancing further in the southern direction. The main goal of Russians is to enter this big forest that will be used by the Russians as a natural protection against FPV drones that Ukrainians use to attack the Russians. If the Russians enter this forest, the Ukrainians, the effectiveness of Ukraine's FPV drone crews will reduce significantly. Furthermore, the Russians improved their positions around the settlement of Miropolye, and these are the changes on the ground. We have adjusted the video based on the video that we have adjusted the map based on the video that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and in this video we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians in this area with FPV drones, and based on this video and geolocations we've managed to find, we have adjusted the map. Furthermore, the Russians are keeping advancing further to the west from the area of Miropolsk, and the Russians are trying to secure this forest and to force the Ukrainians to fall back from this area. So as we can see, the clashes and activities of both the Russians and the Ukrainians in the Sumy direction are very high, and the most important thing is that the Ukrainians use the Sumy direction as a launching site to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia. So that is why it is very important for the Russians to secure this area if they want to reduce the number of strikes. The Kharkiv direction. During the previous 12 hours, during the previous night, additional changes on the ground were recorded around the settlement of Veterinarne. And these are the changes between the dates. This is the end of the 11th of April, this is the end of the 12th of April. We start receiving first updates that the Russians crossed the border, and this morning on the 30th of April of 2026, we received additional updates, and now we understand what exactly is happening. Currently, it's very difficult to say whether the Russians are planning to move further in the direction of Kazachia Lopan. Pro-Russian sources are saying that the Russians captured the settlement of Veterinarny because the Ukrainians were planning to enter the territory of Russia. The Russians discovered sabotage and reconnaissance groups of the armed forces of Ukraine and counterattacked them. And as a result of the Russian counteroffensive operation, the Russians also captured this small village. Now let's move further. As for the territory between the cities of Kupiansk and Sloviansk, during the previous 12 hours we haven't received almost anything. Just some updates that were published by different sources, but nothing special. As for the city of Kostiantynivka, during the previous night we received lots of very interesting updates worth attention. First of all, pro-Ukrainian sources adjusted the map in the area of the Kleban-Bytska water reservoir. We see a very big gap between different mappers, and the most important video is coming from the southeastern parts of the settlement, from the Zaporizhzhia street, and this is the video. So in this video we can see a building, and the most important, we can see civilians. So this is a very important situation. As we can see, we're not talking about thousands, we're talking probably dozens or maybe hundreds of civilians that decided to stay on the territory of the city of Kostiantynivka. And the most important thing, that right exactly in this episode we can see a civilian who was raising the Russian flag. So he was raising the Russian flag, and obviously this video means that most likely the front line is somewhere much further in the northwestern direction, because I'm not sure that this civilian would risk to raise the Russian flag in this point if the front line was just let's say 200 meters from this position. So based on this video we believe that that's the situation in the southeastern and the eastern parts of the city of Kostiantynivka is not as you can see right now in front of your screens. Based on this video we believe that the front line most likely goes somewhere along this line, and the Russians have much better positions in the southeastern and the eastern parts of the city. So this is the situation, and the most important is that the Russians are keeping advancing, and we believe that in coming days we will receive additional changes on the ground. It seems that a turning point happened in the battle for the city of Kostiantynivka. It seems that before May holidays we will receive significant changes in this area. Now let's talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction. During the previous 12 hours, additional updates were reported. According to pro-Ukrainian sources, the armed forces of the Russian Federation have captured the settlement of Mirnaya, and according to different sources, the Ukrainians continue counter-offensive operation in the western Zaporizhzhia direction, and as a result of the Ukrainian counter-attack, the Ukrainians recaptured some positions. Based on the reports that were published by different sources and experts, we have readjusted the map by adding additional contested territory to the area of the villages of Novoyakovlevka and Zapasnaya. At the same time, the Russians improved their positions to the south of Pavlovka, trying to cut the pockets between the villages of Pavlovka, Mali Sherbaki and Sherbaki. So it's not something like a major offensive operation. The most important thing is that despite the fact that some sources reported that maybe there were chances that after the end of the Easter truce, both the Russians and the Ukrainians would reduce their attacks or some in their military activities, but we see that nothing like this is happening. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians are intensifying their activities along the line of combat contact. And due to the current situation, the head of the office, of the presidential office of Ukraine, Budanov, made a very important statement. He said that this could end in a disaster for Ukraine, but Budanov announced a trigger event. We are now once again approaching a so-called trigger event, which will require unity from us. And unfortunately, if this unity does not exist, it could be a disaster. Zelensky's chief of staff stated, similar situations have occurred in the past and led to serious problems. I won't give examples because it would be very sad and unpleasant if you analyze our recent history. You will very very quickly and find all the answers. After Easter, according to information we have, US peace negotiators are planning to visit Ukraine for the first time, according to Kiev media. The US agrees with Russia's position that Ukraine must withdraw its troops from Donbas to stop the war, Zelensky complained. So in coming days, something important is going to happen on the territory of Ukraine. The head of the office of the president of Ukraine, Budanov, didn't specify what exactly he was talking about, either about the upcoming negotiation process or about the situation that Ukrainians would be forced to fall back and withdraw their troops from the territory of Donbas. Very difficult to understand, but he knows something, because I would like to point your attention to remind you that he was in charge of the Ukraine's intelligence service, and obviously he knows a lot. We've covered most of the updates regarding the situation in Ukraine. Now let's talk about the Middle East. According to information we have, in coming hours, the President of the United States of America is going to start the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So Monday started, Monday of the 30th of April of 2026, and Monday started with big oil prices. The oil markets opened with the prices on the level of almost $105 per barrel for WTI crude, and I would like to remind you that on Friday of 10th of April of 2026, the oil markets ended their sessions on the level of less than $100 per barrel. So just during the weekend, the oil prices rose for 10% or something like this. And the oil prices rose when the United States of America just announced that US was planning to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. As of the moment when I started making this video, the United States of America hadn't closed the Strait of Hormuz, but most likely it will happen in coming hours. And of course, we start receiving lots of updates in this media. Tatcom says that US will begin a Navy blockade of all ships entering or leaving Iranian ports on April 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So this is going to happen very, very soon. And as the most important thing is that how exactly the United States of America is going to block the Strait of Hormuz. And today different sources published several pictures where we can see the range of Iranian missiles, and according to the range of Iranian missiles, the US Navy and the US ships will not be able to cross this blue line. If they cross this blue line, they will be at a very big risk of being hit by the Iranian missiles and at a very big risk to be destroyed completely. So even from this perspective, we see that most likely the Iranians will have possibilities to sell oil at least to the state of Pakistan and to the state of India. And this is a very important situation, which means that even if there is a blockade, most likely the Iranians will be able to sell oil to these two states. And I'm not sure about the money, whether this money will be enough for the Iranians to hold their positions, but maybe who knows what is going to happen. Another important thing, it is very difficult to understand what the United States of America are going to do with the Chinese vessels. There are Chinese vessels carrying oil in international waters from the Gulf. It will be interesting to see China's reaction if America attempts to indirect any of them. So this is also another very big question, because according to the President of the United States of America, they will arrest and they will stop any vessel, any tanker that got oil from the port infrastructure of Iran, or who paid money to the Iranians to have a permission to cross the Strait of Hormuz. So lots of questions, lots of different situation, and we will understand everything, of course, in coming hours. And obviously tomorrow in the morning we will know and we will understand everything. But one thing is clear, that oil prices will continue growing. And furthermore, according to information we have, the Israelis are ready for the resumption of the Epic Fury operation. The Israeli Khan agency, citing senior Israel security officials, says Israel is ready and wants to resume the war and is waiting for Trump's decision. But as we understand, Trump hasn't made this decision yet. Meanwhile, the Israelis continue their buffer zone operation in the southern parts of Lebanon, Lebanon, and according to information we have, additional changes on the ground were recorded. This is the end of the 12th of April, and this is the beginning of the 30th of April of 2026. According to information we have, the Israeli Defense Forces managed to encircle the settlement of Bint Jbail, which is located in the southern parts of Lebanon. Furthermore, by these maneuvers, as we can see, the Israelis managed to encircle huge territories along the border with Israel. So we see that there is a pocket with a significant number of villages. We're talking about the settlement of Bint Jbail and Ramesh. And obviously, from these positions and from this configuration, the front line, it will be very difficult for the Lebanon forces to do anything with this and to unblock these settlements. So the encirclement and something like a cauldron was created in the southern parts of Lebanon. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Prime Minister of Israel came to Lebanon, and he visited territories that are under complete control of Israeli forces. So this is also a very big and media attack from the Israeli side, and which means that the Israelis are going to finish the buffer zone operation, and furthermore they are ready to resume and to restart the military operation against Iran as well. And that's it for the short video. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.